dragon warrior anymore?
You will advance to spiritual leader.
Dinner, please. Dinner with peas in a sesame soy glade.
Big fan.
One skadoosh. What do I know about being a spiritual leader?
Welcome to J Cinema Films, where stories come alive. From timeless classics to hidden gems, we break down cinema like never before. If you love movies, you're in the right seat. Grab your popcorn, and let's roll. Kung Fu Panda is an American martial arts comedy media franchise that began with the release of the animated film Kung Fu Panda, produced by DreamWorks Animation. Following the adventures of the titular Po Ping, primarily voiced by Jack Black and Mick Wingert, a giant panda who is improbably chosen as the prophesied dragon warrior and becomes a master of kung fu. The franchise is set in a fantasy wuxia-inspired version of ancient China populated by anthropomorphic animals. Although everyone initially doubts him, including Po himself, he proves himself worthy as he strives to fulfill his destiny. The franchise includes 4 animated films: Kung Fu Panda, Kung Fu Panda 2, Kung Fu Panda 3, and Kung Fu Panda 4, as well as 3 television series: Kung Fu Panda, Legends of Awesomeness, The Paws of Destiny, and The Dragon Knight. The first 2 films were distributed by Paramount Pictures, the third by 20th Century Fox, and the fourth by Universal Pictures. The television series respectively aired on Nickelodeon and Nicktoons, Amazon Prime, and Netflix. In addition, 6 short films have been produced: Secrets of the Furious 5, Kung Fu Panda Holiday, Kung Fu Panda, Secrets of the Masters, Kung Fu Panda, Secrets of the Scroll, Panda Paws, and Dueling Dumplings. The franchise's first 2 features were nominated for the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature as well as numerous Annie Awards. The first television series won 11 Emmy Awards, and the third won 2. All 4 films were both critical and commercial successes, together grossing over $2 billion worldwide and making the franchise one of the highest grossing in animated film history. The second installment also held the record for the highest grossing film directed solely by a woman, Jennifer Yu Nelson, until the release of Wonder Woman. The series remains especially popular in China as a celebrated Western interpretation of the wuxia film genre. Cast and crew. The casting for Kung Fu Panda 4 heavily relied on the return of several key voice actors from the previous films in the franchise, ensuring continuity and familiarity for audiences who have followed Po's journey since 2008. Jack Black, reprising his role as Po Ping, the enthusiastic giant panda turned dragon warrior, remains the heart of this series. Black, known for his energetic and comedic performances in films like School of Rock, 2003, and Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, 2017, has voiced Po across all 4 main films, multiple shorts, and even video games tied to the franchise. His portrayal captures Po's blend of clumsiness, optimism, and growth, which has evolved from a noodle-loving underdog to a potential spiritual leader in this installment. In interviews promoting Kung Fu Panda 4, Black expressed his excitement about returning, noting in a comicbook.com sit-down that Po's character arc in this film involves stepping into a mentorship role, mirroring his own experiences as an actor guiding newer talent. He described the recording process as a blast, emphasizing how he improvised lines to infuse Po with his signature humor, such as ad-libbing reactions to new threats like the chameleon. Black's involvement was announced early in production, as he has been synonymous with the role, and his chemistry with the ensemble has been a cornerstone of the series' success. Directors Mike Mitchell and Stephanie Mostine praised Black's ability to bring emotional depth to animated sequences, particularly in scenes where Po grapples with retirement and succession. Dustin Hoffman returns as Master Shifu, the wise and stern Red Panda mentor who has guided Po since the first film. Hoffman, an Academy Award-winning actor with iconic roles in The Graduate, 1967, Rain Man, 1988, and Tootsie, 1982, brings a gravitas to Shifu that contrasts with the franchise's comedic elements. His voice work emphasizes Shifu's evolution from a doubtful teacher to a proud figure pushing Po toward greater responsibilities. In Kung Fu Panda 4, Shifu's role is pivotal in the opening sequences, where he urges Po to find a successor, setting the plot in motion. Hoffman, now in his late 80s, has spoken in past franchise interviews about the appeal of voice acting, allowing him to explore character nuances without physical demands. For this film, his sessions were recorded separately, as is common in animation, but Mitchell noted in an off-screen interview that Hoffman's delivery influenced animation tweaks to capture Shifu's subtle facial expressions. The decision to bring Hoffman back was never in question, given Shifu's integral role in post-development, and his presence helps bridge the narrative to previous entries. James Hong reprises Mr. Ping, Po's adoptive father and the noodle shop owner, a character he has voiced since the original Kung Fu Panda. Hong, a veteran actor with over 600 credits including Big Trouble in Little China, 1986, and Everything Everywhere All at Once, 2022, infuses Mr. Ping with warmth and humor, often stealing scenes with his overprotective parental antics. In Kung Fu Panda 4, Mr. Ping joins Po on his adventure, providing comic relief and emotional support. During a pop culture interview, Hong reflected on his long tenure with the character, stating that Mr. Ping has become an extension of himself after years of involvement in films, TV series, and even theme park announcements. He emphasized the character's growth, from initial doubts about Po's destiny to full acceptance, mirroring themes of family and belonging. Hong's casting was confirmed in December 2023 alongside other returns, and he shared in a YouTube interview that recording for this film involved more action-oriented lines, challenging him to match the energy of younger co-stars. His enduring presence adds cultural authenticity, as Hong has advocated for better Asian representation in Hollywood throughout his career. Bryan Cranston returns as Li Shan, Po's biological father, introduced in Kung Fu Panda 3, 2016. Cranston, acclaimed for Breaking Bad, 2008 to 2013, and films like Cargo, 2012, brings a boisterous, loving energy to Lee, contrasting with Mr. Pink's more reserved nature. In this film, Lee teams up with Mr. Pink to rescue Po, highlighting themes of blended families. Cranston's involvement was announced in December 2023, and in promotional materials, he discussed how Lee's character allows him to explore father-son dynamics. Drawing from his own life experiences, his voice sessions emphasized comedic timing, particularly in banter with Hong's Mr. Ping, which Mitchell described as gold in behind-the-scenes footage. Cranston's star power elevates the supporting role, and his return ensures continuity in Poe's personal storyline. Ian McShane reprises Tai Lung, the snow leopard villain from the first film, in a surprising opening sequence where the chameleon impersonates him. McShane, known for Deadwood, 2004-2006, and the John Wick series, delivers a menacing performance that callbacks to Tai Lung's original Fury. Director Mitchell, a fan of McShane, insisted on his return, stating in interviews that there was no backup plan if he declined. McShane's recording focused on intense fight dialogues, and his voice adds nostalgia, reminding audiences of the franchise's roots. Announced in December 2023, McShane's cameo was kept under wraps to surprise fans. The Furious Five via Tigress, Angelina Jolie, Monkey, Jackie Chan, Crane, David Cross, Viper, Lucy Liu, and Mantis, Seth Rogen appear in a non-speaking cameo during the end credits. This limited role stemmed from narrative choices and budget constraints, as discussed in various sources. Jolie, an Oscar winner for Girl, Interrupted, 1999, and star of Maleficent, 2014, has voiced Tigress since 2008, bringing fierce determination. However, her high salary reportedly contributed to the decision to sideline the group. Rogen provided screams for Mantis, his only contribution, drawing from his comedic background in Superbad, 2007, and Sausage Party, 2016. The cameos addition was mandated by marketing, despite initial protests from the creative team, as revealed in Reddit discussions and the direct articles. New cast additions and their contributions. Kung Fu Panda 4 introduces several fresh voices to expand the universe, bringing diversity and new dynamics to Poe's world. Awkwafina, voicing Zen, a cunning Kursk fox and Poe's reluctant ally, marks a significant addition. Awkwafina, born Nurul Alam, rose to fame with Crazy Rich Asians, 2018, and The Farewell, 2019, earning a Golden Globe for the latter. Her casting was reported in May 2023, and she brings a street-smart, sarcastic edge to Zen, who starts as a thief but evolves into the next dragon warrior. In a Nerds of Color interview, Awkwafina discussed incorporating her Queens, New York background into Zen's attitude, emphasizing the character's moral ambiguity as a foil to Poe. She recorded alongside Black for chemistry-building sessions, and Mitchell praised her improvisation skills, which added layers to Zen's redemption arc. Awkwafina also voiced the chameleon's impersonation of Zen, showcasing her range. Her involvement aligns with the franchise's push for cultural representation, as she highlighted Lunar New Year ties and promotions. Viola Davis voices the chameleon, the shape-shifting sorceress villain. Davis, an EGOT winner with Oscars for Fences, 2016, and roles in The Help, 2011, and How to Get Away with Murder, 2014-2020, brings commanding presence to the role. Announced in December 2023, Davis was chosen for her ability to convey intelligence and menace, as Mitchell wanted a brain-over-brawn antagonist. In interviews, Davis spoke about drawing from real-life underdogs, mirroring the chameleon's backstory of being overlooked due to her size. Her recording process involved experimenting with voices for her transformations, including Tai Lung and Zen. Davis's gravitas elevates the villain, making her Poe's most supernatural foe, and her casting adds prestige to the film. Huey Kwan voices Han, the pangolin leader of thieves. Kwan, who won an Oscar for Everything Everywhere All at Once, 2022, after early roles in The Goonies, 1985, brings enthusiasm to Han's yet honorable character. Announced in December 2023, Kwon's casting reflects his career resurgence. In promotions, he shared excitement about joining a beloved franchise, noting Han's design inspired by his own energetic personality. His sessions focused on group dynamics with the Den of Thieves, adding humor to action scenes. Lori Tan Chin voices Granny Boar, a tough elderly warrior. Chin, known for Orange is the New Black, 2013 to 2019, and Awkwafina is Nora from Queens, 2020, relished playing a badass role breaking stereotypes. In a pop culture interview, she expressed pride in adding Chinese elements and letting loose with Granny's nastiness. Announced in December 2023, Chin's casting brings veteran comedic timing, and she discussed the physicality of voice work for fight sounds. Ronnie Chiang voices Captain Fish, a fish in a pelican's mouth. Chiang, from Crazy Rich Asians and The Daily Show, found voice acting challenging due to repeated action noises, as shared in pop culture. Announced in December 2023, he appreciated the franchise's respectful cultural fusion. His role adds quirky humor, drawing from his stand-up background. Harry Shum Jr. voices Scott, a fire-breathing crocodile. Shum, from Glee, 2009 to 2015, and Shadowhunters, 2016 to 2019, provides a brief but memorable performance. His casting adds diversity, though details are limited. Jimmy Mr. Beast Donaldson cameos as Panda Pig. The YouTuber, known for philanthropy stunts, was cast for his massive following, announced subtly to appeal to younger audiences. The casting process and announcements timeline. The casting for Kung Fu Panda 4 unfolded over several months, with announcements strategically timed to build hype. Production began in earnest after the 2016 third film, but voice casting ramped up in 2023. DreamWorks Animation sought a mix of returning stars for nostalgia and new talent for freshness. Awkwafina's addition was the first major reveal in May 2023, followed by a December 2023 wave announcing Davis, Kwon, Chin, Xian, and returns like Black, Hoffman, Hong, Cranston, and McShane. This timing coincided with trailer releases, maximizing buzz. Directors Mitchell and Mostein, along with producer Rebecca Huntley, emphasized diverse voices in interviews. Mitchell, in Off-Screen, discussed scouting actors who could embody the film's themes of growth and diversity. Voice sessions occurred in isolated booths, but some paired recordings, like Black and Awkwafina, fostered chemistry. The process involved auditions for new roles, with Davis selected for her dramatic range and Kwon for his action hero vibe. Controversy surrounding the casting decisions. One of the most discussed aspects of Kung Fu Panda 4's casting is the minimal role of the Furious Five, sparking fan backlash and industry chatter. Initially, the group was not planned to appear, as revealed by Mitchell in the direct interview, to allow Po a solo adventure outside the Valley of Peace. However, underlying factors included budget constraints, particularly the high fees for A-listers like Jolie, $20 million plus per film, and others. Sources like Reddit threads and CBR articles point to cost-cutting, with the Furious Five reduced to a post-credits cameo featuring non-speaking appearances and only Rogen screams for Mantis. Creative team members protested the omission, arguing for their inclusion in storyboards, but marketing insisted on the cameo to appease fans. Mitchell addressed this in Screen Rant, suggesting future films could feature them more prominently, but the decision divided audiences. Some critics, like in Miami Student Review, called the film unfinished due to this, while others praised the focus on new characters. The controversy highlights tensions between artistic vision, fan expectations, and financial realities in animated sequels. Impact of casting on the film's narrative and reception. The casting choices in Kung Fu Panda 4 significantly shaped its narrative, blending legacy with innovation. Returning actors like Black and Hoffman provide emotional anchors, allowing the story to explore succession and legacy. New additions, such as Davis's formidable villain, introduce higher stakes, with her performance influencing animation to emphasize cunning over brute force. Awkwafina Zen drives the buddy dynamic plot, her rapport with Black adding humor and heart. In terms of reception, the diverse cast has been lauded for representation, with Asian American voices like Quan, Chin, and Chiang enhancing cultural authenticity. Interviews highlight how actors' backgrounds inform characters, such as pride in breaking stereotypes, Chiang's appreciation for cultural merge. However, the Furious Five's sidelining drew criticism, impacting some reviews, though the film's box office success, $547 million worldwide, suggests the overall casting resonated. Behind-the-scenes footage shows how voice work directly affected animation, with ad-libs from Black and Awkwafina refining scenes. Expanding on individual preparations, Black trained in martial arts-inspired movements for authenticity, even if not visible. Davis researched chameleons for vocal inflections, adding eerie shifts. Guan's Oscar win brought prestige, attracting awards buzz. The ensemble's chemistry, fostered through virtual reads, translates to on-screen energy, making Kung Fu Panda 4 a testament to thoughtful casting and animation. Production overview and background. The production of Kung Fu Panda 4 represents a significant milestone in DreamWorks Animation's history, marking one of the studio's most anticipated sequels after an 8-year hiatus following Kung Fu Panda 3 in 2016. This fourth installment in the beloved franchise was produced by DreamWorks Animation and distributed by Universal Pictures, representing a new chapter in the studio's relationship with Universal following their acquisition of DreamWorks Animation in 2016. The film was directed by Mike Mitchell, who had previously served as a creative consultant on the original Kung Fu Panda film and executive producer on the third installment. Mitchell brought extensive experience from his work on films like Shrek Forever After and the SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water to the project. Co-directing alongside Mitchell was Stephanie Mostine, marking her directorial debut after working as a storyboard artist and head of story on various DreamWorks projects. The producing duties were handled by Rebecca Huntley, who had previously worked as an associate producer on How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World. The screenplay was crafted by a team of experienced writers including Jonathan Abel and Glenn Berger, who had been instrumental in shaping the previous Kung Fu Panda films. Alongside Darren Lemke, known for his work on Shrek Forever After and Goosebumps, this collaboration brought together both franchise veterans and fresh perspectives to create a story that would honor the series' legacy while introducing new elements and characters. Creative vision and thematic development. Mitchell approached the fourth film with the clear vision of creating what he described as a love letter to the first film. The production team faced the unique challenge of continuing Bo's story after the apparent completion of his character arc in the third film, where he had fully embraced his identity as both a dragon warrior and a kung fu master. The solution came through exploring themes of mentorship, succession, and personal growth beyond individual achievement. The creative team wanted to explore what happens when a hero must transition from being the chosen one to choosing the next generation. This thematic foundation influenced every aspect of the production, from character development to visual storytelling. Mitchell emphasized that while the film would maintain strong connections to the franchise's established mythology, it was designed to stand on its own for newcomers while providing satisfying continuity for longtime fans. One of the most significant creative decisions was the introduction of moral ambiguity through the character of Zen, Poe's reluctant ally who operates in ethical gray areas. This represented a departure from the more clear-cut heroic narratives of previous films, allowing the production team to explore more complex themes of redemption, trust, and second chances. Animation and technical production. Kung Fu Panda 4 pushed the boundaries of DreamWorks Animation's technical capabilities, incorporating the latest advances in computer animation technology. The production utilized DreamWorks' proprietary software systems, including Premo for character animation and Moonray for rendering, which allowed for unprecedented detail in character expressions and environmental textures. The film's most technically complex character was the chameleon, the shape-shifting antagonist voiced by Viola Davis. The character required the creation of 8,130 individual animation controls, making her one of the most complex characters ever animated at DreamWorks. Each transformation sequence demanded meticulous attention to detail, with animators studying real chameleon movements and color-changing patterns to create believable metamorphoses while maintaining the character's distinct personality traits. The production team drew inspiration from anime aesthetics more heavily than previous installments, incorporating dynamic camera movements and stylized action sequences that reflected contemporary animation trends. Stunt performers from Marvel Cinematic Universe films were brought in to provide reference material for the animators, ensuring that the martial arts choreography felt authentic and impactful. Environmental design played a crucial role in expanding the franchise's visual universe. The creation of Juniper City required extensive research into Chinese architecture and urban planning, blending traditional elements with fantastical designs that would feel both familiar and fresh to audiences. The Den of Thieves sequence showcased the animator's ability to create atmospheric lighting and mood through detailed shadow work and creative use of color palettes. Collaboration with external studios. A significant aspect of the production involved collaboration with Jellyfish Pictures, a London-based animation studio that had previously worked with DreamWorks on projects including How to Train Your Dragon, Homecoming, Spirit Untamed, The Boss Baby, Family Business, and The Bad Guys. Jellyfish Pictures handled additional asset production services, utilizing the same proprietary software systems as the main DreamWorks team to ensure seamless integration of their work with the primary animation. This collaboration represented DreamWorks' evolving production model, which increasingly relied on partnerships with external studios to manage the growing complexity and scale of animated film production. The partnership allowed DreamWorks to maintain their high-quality standards while managing production timelines and resource allocation more effectively. Kung Fu Panda 4, along with The Wild Robot, holds the distinction of being among the last films to be produced entirely in-house at DreamWorks Animation's Glendale campus. Following these productions, the studio transitioned to a model that relied more heavily on external partnerships, marking the end of an era in DreamWorks' production methodology. Development and pre-production. Initial conception and franchise planning. The journey toward Kung Fu Panda 4 began long before its official announcement, with franchise planning discussions dating back to the release of the third film. In December 2010, then DreamWorks Animation CEO Jeffrey Katzenberg had suggested the possibility of expanding the series to 6 films total, indicating the studio's long-term confidence in the franchise's commercial and artistic potential. However, the path to the 4th film was not straightforward. In January 2016, when asked about the possibility of continuing the series, co-director Jennifer Yu Nelson expressed a measured approach, stating that the creative team wanted to focus on making each film a perfect jewel rather than rushing into sequels. Co-director Alessandro Carloni echoed the sentiment, emphasizing their desire to avoid open-ended narratives and instead create complete, satisfying story arcs. The turning point came in August 2018 when Nelson, while acknowledging that she had originally envisioned the series as a trilogy, expressed openness to a 4th installment provided it maintained focus on Poe's character development. This statement signaled the creative team's recognition that there were still meaningful stories to tell within the Kung Fu Panda universe. Official announcement and team assembly. DreamWorks Animation officially announced Kung Fu Panda 4 in August 2022, nearly 6 years after the release of the previous film. This announcement came with the confirmation of a 2024 release date, indicating the studio's confidence in their production timeline and market positioning. The selection of Mike Mitchell as director was announced at CinemaCon in April 2023, along with the confirmation of Stephanie Mostein as co-director and Rebecca Huntley as producer. Mitchell's appointment brought both franchise familiarity and fresh perspective to the project. His previous involvement as a creative consultant on the original film and executive producer on the 3rd installment provided him with deep understanding of the franchise's creative DNA, while his directorial experience on major animated features equipped him with the technical and creative skills necessary to helm such an ambitious project. The decision to have Mostein co-direct reflected DreamWorks' commitment to developing new directorial talent while ensuring experienced oversight. Mostein's background in storyboarding and story development made her an ideal collaborator for Mitchell, particularly given her understanding of the visual storytelling techniques that had made the franchise successful. Story development and character creation. The initial story development phase focused on identifying the central conflict that would drive Poe's next adventure. The creative team recognized that Poe's character arc had reached a natural conclusion in the third film, where he had mastered Kai and fully embraced his dual identity as both a dragon warrior and a member of the panda community. The challenge was finding a meaningful way to continue his journey without undermining the completeness of his previous character development. The solution emerged through exploring themes of legacy and mentorship. By positioning Poe as someone who must find and train a successor, the story could explore new dimensions of his character while introducing fresh conflicts and relationships. This approach allowed the writers to examine what it means to be a hero beyond personal achievement and how wisdom and experience can be passed to the next generation. The character of Zen represented a crucial creative decision in the development process. Mitchell wanted to pair Poe with a morally ambiguous character who would challenge his black and white worldview. Zen's design as a Korsk fox reflected both practical and thematic considerations as the species' natural agility and cunning made it suitable for a character who operates as a thief and infiltrator, while the fox's traditional associations with trickery and intelligence in folklore provided rich symbolic material for character development. The chameleon emerged as the primary antagonist through the creative team's desire to create a more brain-than-brawn villain who would contrast with the franchise's previous antagonists. Mitchell described her as the smartest and most supernatural foe Poe had faced, with her shape-shifting abilities representing both a physical threat and a metaphorical exploration of identity and authenticity, themes that run throughout the franchise. Original concept evolution. One of the most intriguing aspects of the film's development was the revelation that it was originally conceived as a live-action/animated hybrid film. According to co-director Stephanie Mostein, this early concept would have featured human actors alongside the animated animal characters, with the chameleon, originally called the Collector, and Zen designed as human characters rather than animals. This hybrid approach would have represented a significant departure from the franchise's established visual style and world building. The decision to abandon this concept in favor of a fully animated approach demonstrates the production team's commitment to maintaining the series' visual consistency in fantasy elements that had made it successful. The change also allowed for more creative freedom in character design and action sequences that would have been challenging to achieve with live-action elements. Pre-production challenges and solutions. The pre-production phase involved extensive research and development to expand the franchise's world beyond the familiar Valley of Peace setting. The creation of Juniper City required detailed cultural and architectural research to ensure authenticity while maintaining the series' fantastical elements. The design team studied various Chinese city layouts, architectural styles, and urban planning principles to create a believable but visually distinct environment that would serve the story's needs. Character design presented its own challenges, particularly with the chameleon's multiple transformation sequences. The design team needed to create a character that could believably transform into various forms while maintaining recognizable core characteristics that would allow audiences to track her identity through different appearances. This required extensive experimentation with color palettes, shape language, and animation techniques to achieve the desired effect. The pre-production team also faced the challenge of integrating returning characters with new additions in ways that felt organic rather than forced. The decision regarding the Furious Five's limited appearance was made during this phase. Influenced by both budgetary considerations and narrative focus, the team ultimately decided to prioritize the new character relationships while providing satisfying cameos for established favorites. Script development process. The screenplay development involved multiple drafts and collaborative refinement between the writing team of Abel, Berger, and Lemke. The writers faced the challenge of balancing franchise expectations with fresh storytelling, ensuring that longtime fans would find familiar elements while newcomers could engage with the story independently. The writing process involved extensive character work to ensure that Po's voice remained consistent with his established personality while showing growth and maturation appropriate to his new role as a mentor figure. The writers worked to maintain the character's essential optimism and humor while adding layers of wisdom and responsibility that reflected his journey through the previous films. Dialogue development required particular attention to maintaining the franchise's signature blend of humor and heart. The writers crafted exchanges that would appeal to both child and adult audiences, incorporating sophisticated themes within accessible storytelling structures. The integration of new characters like Zen and the Camel. The animation process began with the creation of detailed animatics based on the approved storyboards. These rough animated sequences served as the blueprint for the final animation, allowing directors and department heads to visualize pacing, camera movements, and character blocking before committing to the time-intensive final animation process. Layout artists then created the basic three-dimensional environments and camera positions for each scene, establishing the spatial relationships between characters and backgrounds. This stage was crucial for the film's numerous action sequences, which required precise choreography and camera work to maintain clarity and excitement throughout complex fight scenes. Character animation production. The character animation phase represented the most labor-intensive aspect of the filming process. Lead animators were assigned to specific characters to ensure consistency in movement and personality throughout the film. Po's animation required particular attention to maintain the character's distinctive physical comedy while showing his evolution into a more mature mentor figure. Zen's animation presented unique challenges due to her species-specific movements and personality traits. Animators studied real fox behavior and movement patterns while incorporating the stylized anthropomorphic elements that define the franchise's character design. Her agility and stealth-based abilities required careful attention to physics and timing to create believable action sequences. The chameleon's animation demanded the most technical innovation, with each transformation sequence requiring individual attention and custom animation rigs. The character's ability to shift between different forms while maintaining personality consistency required animators to develop new techniques for morphing between distinct character models while preserving performance continuity. Action sequence production. The film's action sequences required extensive pre-visualization and planning to achieve the desired impact. The production team employed stunt coordinators and martial arts consultants to ensure authenticity in the fight choreography. Even within the animated context, reference footage from Marvel film stunt performers was used to inform the animation team's approach to dynamic action sequences. Camera work during action sequences drew heavily from anime influences, incorporating rapid movement, dynamic angles, and stylized effects that enhanced the kinetic energy of fight scenes. The animation team developed new techniques for incorporating motion blur and impact effects that would maintain visual clarity while conveying the speed and force of martial arts combat. Environmental interaction during action sequences required close coordination between character animators and effects teams. Scenes involving destruction, particle effects, and environmental hazards needed to be carefully choreographed to ensure that character performances remained the focus while impressive visual spectacles supported the storytelling. Voice recording integration. The voice recording process occurred parallel to animation production, with principal voice actors recording their performances in professional studios under the direction of Mitchell and the voice direction team. Jack Black's return as Po required him to explore new dimensions of the character while maintaining the distinctive vocal qualities that had defined the role across 4 films. Awkwafina's work as Zen involved developing a character voice that would complement Black's Po while establishing her own distinct personality. The recording sessions involved extensive collaboration between actress and directors to ensure that Zen's character arc was clearly conveyed through vocal performance. Viola Davis's performance as the chameleon required particular attention to vocal consistency across the character's various transformations. The recording process involved developing distinct vocal approaches for different forms while maintaining the characters' core personality traits that would allow audiences to recognize her regardless of physical appearance. Technical innovation in production. The production team implemented several technical innovations during the filming phase to enhance the visual quality and efficiency of the animation process. New rendering techniques were developed specifically for the chameleon's transformation sequences, allowing for seamless morphing between different character models with unprecedented detail and smoothness. Environmental rendering received significant upgrades, with new techniques for atmospheric effects, lighting, and texture detail that enhanced the visual richness of both familiar and new locations. The Valley of Peace sequences benefited from these improvements, showing familiar locations with enhanced visual fidelity that maintained continuity with previous films while demonstrating technical advancement. Particle effects systems were extensively refined to support the film's numerous magical and martial arts elements. High-energy effects, transformation sequences, and environmental magic required sophisticated particle simulation and rendering capabilities that pushed the boundaries of DreamWorks' technical infrastructure. Quality control and review process. Throughout the production process, extensive quality control measures ensured that animation maintained consistency with franchise standards while meeting the technical requirements for theatrical presentation. Daily reviews allowed department heads to identify and address issues before they became expensive to correct in later production phases. Color grading and final compositing required careful attention to maintain visual consistency across different environments and lighting conditions. The film's journey from the Valley of Peace to Juniper City and various other locations demanded sophisticated color management to ensure that each environment felt distinct while maintaining overall visual coherence. Final rendering and compositing brought together all elements of the production into the finished film. This process required significant computational resources and careful management to ensure that the final product met both artistic and technical standards for theatrical distribution. Post-production editorial and cutting process. The post-production phase of Kung Fu Panda 4 began while animation was still in progress, allowing editors to work with animatics and rough animation to establish pacing and narrative flow. Editor Christopher Knights led the editorial team in crafting the final cut, working closely with director Mike Mitchell to ensure that the film's pacing supported both comedic moments and dramatic story beats. The editing process for an animated film involves unique challenges compared to live-action productions. Rather than selecting from multiple camera angles and takes, editors work with carefully planned sequences that have been developed through extensive pre-visualization. This requires precise timing decisions during the editorial phase, as changes to pacing and rhythm can have significant impacts on the effectiveness of comedic and action sequences. One of the major editorial challenges involved balancing the film's multiple plot lines while maintaining focus on Poe's central character arc. The relationships between Poe and Zen required careful attention to pacing to ensure that their partnership developed naturally while maintaining audience engagement through action and comedy beats. The integration of returning characters presented editorial challenges, particularly regarding the Furious Five's limited screen time. Editorial decisions were made to maximize the impact of their appearances while maintaining focus on the new characters and storylines that drove the plot forward. Visual effects and final animation polish. Post-production involved extensive visual effects work to enhance the animation with particle effects, atmospheric elements, and magical sequences that couldn't be achieved through character animation alone. The high-energy effects throughout the film required sophisticated particle simulation and rendering techniques that built upon the visual language established in previous films while expanding the visual vocabulary of the franchise. The chameleon's transformation sequences demanded the most complex visual effects work in the film. Each transformation required custom effects development to create convincing morphing sequences that maintained visual clarity while conveying the magical nature of the character's abilities. The effects team developed new techniques for blending between different character models while maintaining lighting and shading consistency. Environmental effects played a crucial role in establishing the atmosphere of different locations throughout the film. Juniper City required extensive atmospheric effects to create the urban environment's distinct mood, while the Den of Thieves sequence relied on creative lighting and shadow effects to establish the underground hideout's secretive atmosphere. Combat sequences received extensive effects enhancement to increase their visual impact without overwhelming the character performances. Impact effects, motion blur, and dynamic lighting were carefully calibrated to support the martial arts choreography while maintaining visual clarity that allowed audiences to follow the action. Sound design and audio post-production. The sound design phase involved creating an immersive audio landscape that supported both the action sequences and quieter character moments. The sound team worked to establish distinct audio identities for new locations like Juniper City and the Den of Thieves while maintaining consistency with the established audio palette of the franchise. Combat sound design received particular attention, with custom sound effects created for each character's fighting style. Pose techniques maintained consistency with previous films while incorporating new elements that reflected his growth as a martial artist. Zen's fox-like agility required unique sound design that emphasized speed and stealth, while the chameleon's transformations demanded complex layered sound effects that conveyed the magical nature of her abilities. Environmental audio design helped establish the distinct atmosphere of each location. The bustling urban environment of Juniper City required extensive crowd and ambient sound work, while the mystical elements of the spirit realm sequences demanded ethereal and otherworldly audio textures. Dialogue editing and mixing ensured that character performances remained clear and impactful throughout both quiet dramatic moments and loud action sequences. The mixing process required careful balance between dialogue, sound effects, and musical score to maintain audio clarity while creating an immersive theatrical experience. Color correction and final visual polish. Color correction and grading played a crucial role in establishing the visual tone of different sequences and locations. Each environment required distinct color palettes that supported the storytelling while maintaining visual consistency with the franchise's established aesthetic. The Valley of Peace sequences maintained the warm, pastoral tones established in previous films, while Juniper City received cooler, more urban color treatment that reflected its different cultural and atmospheric qualities. The chameleon's various forms required careful color management to ensure that her transformations were visually clear and impactful. Color coding helped audiences track the character through different appearances while supporting the narrative themes of identity and deception that surrounded her character. Lighting design was refined during post-production to enhance the emotional impact of key scenes. The final confrontation sequences received particular attention to lighting and color, creating visual drama that supported the action choreography and character development. The film's magical elements, including high energy effects and transformation sequences, required sophisticated color work to create convincing supernatural elements that felt consistent with the franchise's established visual rules while expanding the visual vocabulary for future installments. Technical quality assurance. Extensive technical quality assurance ensured that the final product met theatrical distribution standards across multiple formats and presentation systems. The film was prepared for traditional digital projection, IMAX presentations, and various international distribution requirements, each requiring specific technical specifications and quality checks. Subtitle and dubbing preparation involved creating materials for international distribution while maintaining synchronization with the character animation. The visual nature of animated films requires particular attention to subtitle placement and timing to avoid interfering with important visual storytelling elements. The final digital master underwent comprehensive testing to ensure compatibility with distribution systems and projection equipment worldwide. Technical specifications were verified to meet industry standards while maximizing the visual impact of the animation and effects work. Archive and preservation copies were created to ensure the long-term availability of the film while meeting studio requirements for future distribution and potential remastering for emerging display technologies. Music composer selection and musical direction. The musical landscape of Kung Fu Panda 4 was shaped by the return of Hans Zimmer, who had composed the scores for all three previous films in the franchise. Zimmer's involvement provided crucial continuity with the established musical identity of the series while allowing for evolution and expansion of the franchise's sonic palette. Joining Zimmer as co-composer was Steve Mazzaro, a frequent collaborator who had previously worked with Zimmer on numerous projects and brought additional expertise in contemporary film scoring techniques. The decision to retain Zimmer represented DreamWorks' commitment to maintaining the franchise's distinctive musical voice. Zimmer's previous work on the Kung Fu Panda films had been praised for its fusion of traditional orchestral scoring with Chinese musical elements, creating a unique sound that balanced Western cinematic traditions with authentic cultural representation. His return ensured that the fourth film would maintain this careful cultural balance while expanding into new musical territory. Masaru's involvement as co-composer brought fresh perspectives to the established musical framework. His expertise in electronic music production and contemporary scoring techniques allowed the team to incorporate modern elements while respecting the franchise's traditional foundation. This collaboration between established franchise composer and innovative co-composer created ideal conditions for musical evolution that honored the past while embracing contemporary possibilities. Musical themes and motif development. The score of Kung Fu Panda 4 built upon the thematic material established in previous films while introducing new musical ideas that reflected the story's focus on mentorship, legacy, and moral complexity. Poe's established musical themes received sophisticated treatment that reflected his character growth from student to master to mentor, with orchestrations that conveyed increased maturity and wisdom while maintaining the character's essential optimism and humor. Zhen's character received distinctive musical treatment that reflected her complex moral positioning and species-specific characteristics. The composers created musical motifs that incorporated elements suggesting both her fox-like agility and cunning while also conveying her underlying vulnerability and potential for redemption. These themes evolved throughout the film as her character arc progressed from antagonist to ally to plot copyright copyright. The chameleon's musical representation posed unique challenges due to her shape-shifting abilities. The composers developed musical techniques that could adapt and transform to reflect her various forms while maintaining recognizable core elements that allowed audiences to orally track her identity through visual transformations. This musical shape-shifting required innovative orchestration and thematic development techniques. The film's exploration of legacy and succession themes received musical treatment that connected Poe's current journey with his past adventures. Musical callbacks to previous films were woven into new compositions, creating a sense of continuity and completion that supported the story's themes about passing wisdom to the next generation. Cultural musical integration. Building upon the franchise's tradition of incorporating authentic Chinese musical elements, the score featured extensive use of traditional instruments and musical structures. The composers worked with specialists in Chinese music to ensure cultural authenticity while creating music that would be accessible to international audiences. Traditional instruments including the erhu, guzheng, and various percussion elements were woven throughout the score to maintain the franchise's cultural grounding. The expansion of the story to include Juniper City provided opportunities for musical world-building that distinguished the urban environment from the pastoral Valley of Peace. The composers created distinct musical palettes for different locations, using varying instrumental combinations and rhythmic approaches to support the visual storytelling and help audiences navigate between different environments. The Den of Thieves sequences received musical treatment that reflected the underground, secretive nature of the location while incorporating elements that suggested both danger and camaraderie among the outcasts who inhabited the space. This musical approach helped establish the complex moral landscape that Zhen navigates throughout her character arc. Action sequence scoring. The film's extensive martial arts sequences required sophisticated musical treatment that enhanced the visual choreography without overwhelming the action. Zimmer and Masaru developed rhythmic and harmonic approaches that could adapt to the varying pace and intensity of different fight scenes while maintaining musical coherence throughout extended action sequences. The final confrontation between Poe and the chameleon received particular musical attention, with composed sequences that built dramatic tension while supporting the emotional stakes of the conflict. The music needed to convey both the physical danger of the battle and the psychological elements of Po's struggle to maintain his principles while facing an enemy who challenged his worldview. Chase sequences and stealth scenes required musical treatment that enhanced suspense and excitement while supporting character development. The composers created musical tension that reflected not only physical jeopardy but also the emotional risks involved as characters navigated complex relationships and moral choices. The integration of high energy and magical elements throughout action sequences required musical representation that felt consistent with previous films while expanding the sonic vocabulary to accommodate new visual elements and story developments. Emotional and character development scoring beyond action sequences. The score played crucial roles in supporting character development and emotional storytelling. The evolving relationships between Po and Xena required musical treatment that could convey mistrust, growing respect, mentorship, and ultimately friendship through subtle harmonic and melodic development. The film's exploration of father-son relationships, continuing themes from previous installments, received musical support that built upon established musical material while expanding to accommodate the story's new dimensions. The composers created musical connections between Po's relationships with his biological and adoptive fathers and his emerging role as a mentor figure to Xena. Moments of humor and comedy throughout the film were enhanced by musical treatment that supported comedic timing without overwhelming the performances. The composers developed techniques for musical comedy that could enhance laughs while maintaining the score's overall dramatic integrity and thematic coherence. The film's quieter, more introspective moments received musical treatment that allowed audiences to connect with character emotions and internal conflicts. These sequences required delicate musical touch that supported performance without calling attention to the score itself. Recording and production process. The recording process involved extensive collaboration between composers, orchestrators, and performers to achieve the desired sonic results. The score was recorded with full orchestra, with additional sessions for traditional Chinese instruments and specialized percussion elements that required particular expertise and authentic performance techniques. The integration of electronic and acoustic elements throughout the score required careful attention during recording and mixing processes. Modern production techniques were used to blend traditional orchestral recording with electronic enhancement and processing, creating a contemporary sound that maintained organic qualities appropriate to the film's themes and setting. The composers worked closely with the film's sound design team to ensure that musical elements complemented rather than competed with sound effects and dialogue. This collaboration was particularly important during action sequences where music, sound effects, and character voices needed to coexist effectively. Final mixing and mastering processes prepared the score for theatrical presentation across various sound systems and formats. The music needed to translate effectively from intimate dialogue scenes to large-scale action sequences while maintaining clarity and impact across different playback environments. And credits and additional music. The end credits sequence featured a notable musical element that generated significant audience discussion. A cover version of Britney Spears' Baby One More Time performed by Tenacious D, Jack Black's rock duo with Kyle Gass. This unexpected musical choice reflected the franchise's willingness to incorporate contemporary elements while maintaining its distinctive identity. The cover arrangement transformed the pop song through rock instrumentation and Black's distinctive vocal style, creating a memorable conclusion to the film that reinforced the franchise's humor and contemporary relevance. The inclusion of this cover song demonstrated the production team's understanding that animated family films could incorporate sophisticated musical choices that would appeal to adult audiences while remaining appropriate for younger viewers. The arrangement maintained the original song's recognizable melody while recontextualizing it through genre transformation and performance style. Additional music throughout the film included source music for various scenes, particularly those set in Juniper City and other populated environments. These musical elements helped establish the cultural and social atmosphere of different locations while maintaining consistency with the film's overall sonic palette. The complete score album was released simultaneously with the film's theatrical debut on March 8, 2024. By Backlot Music. The album presentation allowed audiences to experience the complete musical journey independent of the visual elements, highlighting the composer's achievement in creating music that could stand alone while serving the film's storytelling needs. Released theatrical release strategy. The theatrical release of Kung Fu Panda 4 was carefully orchestrated to maximize both domestic and international box office potential. Universal Pictures, as the distributor, developed a comprehensive release strategy that recognized both the franchise's established global appeal and the specific market dynamics of 2024's competitive theatrical landscape. The film's release strategy began with the premiere at the AMC 14 Theater at the Grove in Los Angeles on March 3, 2024. Providing an opportunity for industry recognition and media coverage that would build anticipation for the wider theatrical release. This premiere event featured cast members, filmmakers, and industry figures, generating positive publicity and social media engagement that supported the film's marketing campaign. The wide theatrical release was scheduled for March 8, 2024, in the United States, with some theaters offering preview screenings on March 7. This release timing positioned the film strategically within the spring movie season, avoiding direct competition with major blockbuster releases while capitalizing on family audiences seeking entertainment during school break periods. International release patterns were coordinated to support global marketing efforts while accommodating regional preferences and competitive landscapes. The film opened in multiple territories simultaneously, allowing for coordinated marketing campaigns and social media engagement across different time zones and cultural contexts. The release encompassed approximately 3,900 theaters in the United States alone, representing one of the widest releases in DreamWorks Animation's history. This extensive theatrical footprint reflected Universal's confidence in the film's commercial potential and the franchise's established audience base. IMAX on premium format presentations. Kung Fu Panda 4 was presented in various premium formats including IMAX, Dolby Atmos, and other enhanced presentation systems that could showcase the film's technical achievements and immersive audio design. These premium presentations commanded higher ticket prices while providing audiences with enhanced viewing experiences that justified the additional cost. The film's visual spectacle, particularly during action sequences and the elaborate chameleon transformation scenes, was specifically designed to benefit from large-format presentation systems. The animation team had considered IMAX presentation during production, ensuring that important visual elements would remain clear and impactful when presented on larger screens. Audio design for premium presentations included specific mixing for Dolby Atmos and other surround sound systems that could take advantage of the film's elaborate sound design and Hans Zimmer's sophisticated musical score. These presentations provided audiences with more immersive experiences that enhanced the film's emotional and visceral impact. International distribution and cultural considerations. The international release of Kung Fu Panda 4 required extensive localization efforts to ensure cultural appropriateness and maximum audience appeal across diverse global markets. The film's Chinese cultural elements presented both opportunities and challenges in different regions, requiring careful marketing and presentation strategies. In China, where the franchise had historically performed exceptionally well due to its respectful portrayal of Chinese culture and martial arts traditions, the film was distributed through China Film Co-Production Corporation, which supervised the release to ensure compliance with local regulations and cultural standards. The film's authentic incorporation of Chinese elements and respectful treatment of cultural themes supported strong performance in this crucial market. European distribution involved coordination across multiple territories with different languages, rating systems, and competitive landscapes. The film was distributed with extensive dubbing and subtitle options to accommodate linguistic diversity while maintaining the quality of performance and comedic timing that defined the franchise's appeal. Various international markets required different promotional approaches based on local preferences and media landscapes. While the film's family-friendly content and established franchise recognition provided universal appeal, marketing campaigns were tailored to emphasize aspects that would resonate most strongly with specific regional audiences. Digital and streaming release strategy. Following its theatrical run, Kung Fu Panda 4's post-theatrical release strategy reflected the complex landscape of modern film distribution, involving multiple platforms and windows that maximized revenue while serving different audience preferences and consumption patterns. Universal Pictures Home Entertainment released the film for digital download on April 9, 2024, approximately 1 month after its theatrical debut. This timing reflected industry standards for animated family films, providing sufficient theatrical exclusivity while capitalizing on audience. Reviews and facts. Number 1. This section contains details about the movie, including its classification by the Australian Government Classification Board and the associated consumer advice lines. Other classification advice is provided where the Australian film classification is not available. Consumer advice lines: mild fantasy themes, animated violence and occasional coarse language. ACCM review. This review of the movie contains the following information: a synopsis of the story. Poe, voice of Jack Black, enjoys his status as the Dragon Warrior in the Valley of Peace and is, therefore, very concerned when Master Shifu, Dustin Hoffman, tells him that it is time to choose a successor, as Poe must go on to become a spiritual leader. Poe doesn't think himself capable of being a spiritual leader and decides to continue in his familiar role. Poe finds himself befriended by a fox named Zen, Awkwafina, who tells him of a villain taking over Juniper City, and so Poe decides he must go, in his role as Dragon Warrior, to defeat the enemy. The villain is a shape-shifting, sorceress chameleon, Viola Davis, who has many talents but is unable to perform kung fu. She wants to take this power from Tylon, Ian McShane, Poe's previous enemy who now exists in the spirit world. Zen provides Poe with the knowledge of the chameleon's whereabouts and promises to take him there. Along the way, Poe and Zen meet many dangers and must fight off many enemies. When they arrive at Juniper City, Poe finds himself betrayed by his friend and in the clutches of the chameleon. Poe has to find new strengths to enable him to meet his new challenge, and he grows in spiritual wisdom as a result. Fantasy Kung Fu Animals in Peril. There is a lot of violence in this movie, including many martial arts fighting scenes with kicking, hitting, throwing, punching, and knife throwing. Other examples include destruction of property and throwing of objects. Poe is seen fighting a giant manta ray to release 3 little pigs. A cicada's head gets bitten off and then put back on. Zen and Poe are both seen tied up in chains. Zen spits at Poe. A fight breaks out in an inn when a rabbit crashes in through a window and starts throwing knives. The inn is sitting on top of a mountain and swings from side to side as the fighting continues. Eventually, it topples over the edge. Poe is seen hanging from a tree and eventually falls off into the water. He is saved by landing inside a boat. Zen and Poe are chased by an army of bull guards rampaging through the streets. Material that may scare or disturb children. In addition to the above-mentioned violent scenes, there are some scenes in this movie that could scare or disturb children under the age of 5, including the following. There are many scary-looking creatures, such as rhinos, boars, large elephants and wolves, that are all menacing. Several scary-looking scenes, such as the goats forced to slave in a darkened forge that glows red from the fires. Goats are seen using pickaxes to break rocks, hammering at iron, hauling heavy barrows, etc. The chameleon is a particularly scary creature, with glowing eyes who can change into any shape and any animal, including, at the very end, a huge monstrous dragon. Poe walks through an area in ruins, carrying a lantern. In addition to the above-mentioned violent scenes and scary visual images, there are some scenes in this movie that could scare or disturb children aged 5 to 8, including the following. Poe is trying to find his inner peace when several panda heads appear to talk to him. At one point Zen appears to be dead. The chameleon uses Poe's staff to unlock the portal to the spirit world. Several animals are called up from the dead and appear with a glow around them. Some small rabbits change from being very sweet to very vicious in an instant. Zen was an orphan in Juniper City and survived by stealing food. She belonged to a den of thieves led by Han, a pangolin, and which included thieves, cheats and cutthroats. A pair of monkeys are seen joined as the hip. Poe has 2 dads, Mr. Ping, a goose, Poe's adoptive father, and Lee, a panda, Poe's biological father, who first appeared in Kung Fu Panda 3. This might be confusing for young children. Number 2. It's been 7 years since he explored his lineage, and Po, Jack Black, is back in the latest installment of the Kung Fu Panda franchise. Po teams up with a new face, voiced by Awkwafina, to stop his most powerful adversary yet. Despite some interesting, albeit unoriginal, developments and some of that trademark Jack Black-fueled humor, in Kung Fu Panda 4 the magic might have finally fizzled out. Po is tasked with finding a successor to be the new dragon warrior, but the emergence of a powerful shape-shifting sorceress puts those plans on hold. Alongside a new quick-fingered companion, he must travel to a new world to face his latest adversary head-on. One final adventure before Po takes the next step in his journey. Review: quite like the fourth Toy Story film, a fourth installment in the Kung Fu Panda franchise wasn't entirely necessary. Up to this point Po had fulfilled his hero's journey as the Dragon Warrior, and in the third film even reunited with his long-lost father Lee, Bryan Cranston. Kung Fu Panda 4 is framed as a legacy sequel. Po is tasked with taking the place of his original mentor, Master Roagwe, as the spiritual leader of the Valley of Peace, and therefore must find his replacement. But, of course, he is dubious about taking the step, and he doesn't believe anyone is right for the job despite Shifu, Dustin Hoffman, stating that he will know when he knows. Through taking this route, Kung Fu Panda 4 doesn't take any bold steps narratively. It's clear from the beginning who Po is going to choose as his successor and that he'll eventually feel the time is right to move on to his next role after that final adventure. Maybe it's not tilde Macron V to expect an animated film aimed at children to take some risks, but a bit more conflict laid out for Po wouldn't have gone amiss. Amongst the new players is the villainous chameleon, Viola Davis, who can shapeshift into anyone she wants. Davis is, as ever, brilliant here with her voice work, channeling some of the deranged energy from her stint as Dr. Gull in The Ballad of Songbird and Snakes. This is also where the animation really shines, a highlight being when we first see her transformed from the small-statured chameleon into a towering elephant. Huey Kwan also adds some fun to the voice cast as Han, a pangolin and leader of the underground den of thieves. The most fun in the film is harvested from a side plot which follows Po's paternal and adoptive fathers, who adventure just behind Po following him as they are worried he may get hurt. Both Bryan Cranston and James Hong are brilliant together as they unfold the chaos both Po and Zen leave behind them. Kung Fu Panda 4 has a fairly fun final set piece, where Po, Zen, and the chameleon go toe-to-toe. It includes cameos from some of Po's previous enemies, with Ian McShane returning as Tai Lung. A barrage of cool fighting is topped off by Zen saving the day and proving herself in front of Po. Kung Fu Panda has enough fun to keep it going. However, there's a sense that even the people involved in telling the story know that the franchise may have run its course. But one final adventure with animation's most unlikely hero is nothing to be sneered at. Number 3 Jack Black's Po is back after nearly a decade, and he's already receiving a hero's welcome from audiences. Kung Fu Panda 4 opened to a stellar $58.3 million domestically, well ahead of expectations and a near-series best and a win for the family marketplace, as well as for DreamWorks Animation and parent company Universal, the studio behind Sunday's Academy Awards frontrunner Oppenheimer. The only other Kung Fu Panda installment to open higher was the first one in 2008 with $62 million, not adjusted for inflation. Along with Black, returning members of the Kung Fu Panda 4 voice cast include Dustin Hoffman as Kung Fu Master Shifu, James Hong as Po's adoptive father, Bryan Cranston as Po's birth father Lee, and Ian McShane as Shifu's former student and arch-nemesis. Series newcomers include Viola Davis as a tiny lizard and shape-shifting sorceress, and Awkwafina as a quick-witted thief whom Po needs in order to protect their world. Huey Kwan also joins the franchise as a criminal leader named Han. The film boasts an A-cinema score from audiences and strong post-track exits. Kung Fu Panda 4 is directed by Mike Mitchell, who also helmed Trolls and Shrek Forever After. All eyes are also on Denis Villeneuve's Dune, Part 2 to see how it holds up in its second outing. The legendary and Warner Brothers sci-fi epic opened last weekend to a stellar $82.5 million domestically and finished Thursday with the North American tally of more than $110 million and $200 million globally. Heading into Oscar weekend, box office pundits believe Dune 2 could earn $40 million or so in its second outing. It earned $46 million. Thanks in part to keen demand for higher-priced IMAX and other premium large-format screens. Overseas, its foreign tally hit $210 million after landing in China. The estimated global CAM is $376.5 million. Lionsgate and Blumhouse's Imaginary also entered the mix and opened to a pleasing $10 million. The story follows a young woman, DeWanda Wise, who moves back to her childhood home, where her youngest stepdaughter, Piper Braun, develops an eerie attachment to a stuffed bear named Chauncey she finds in the basement. The film is directed by Jeff Wadlow, who also produces alongside Jason Blum. It earned a C Cinema score, which is not unusual for horror. Cabrini, the latest offering from Angel Studios, the Utah-based production and crowdsourcing company that was home to summer 2023's sleeper hit Sound of Freedom, opened to a modest $7.6 million. Angel series and movies are often infused with faith-based stories or themes. In regards to Oscar-nominated films, many of the movies vying for top honors are already available in the home, but some could still see an uptick at the box office. If Christopher Nolan and Universal's Oppenheimer wins Best Picture, it will make box office history by becoming the highest-grossing movie to win the prize since the final The Lord of the Rings in 2004. Oppenheimer has earned nearly $960 million in worldwide ticket sales. Number 4. The lead pair make a brilliant double act, but the franchise has run out of its signature sweetness and charm. The cuddly Kung Fu master is back. Jack Black returns as dumpling-loving Panda Po, the unlikeliest of lean, mean fighting machines. It's been 8 years since Kung Fu Panda 3, and on the evidence here, the delay can't be put down to KFP for being a labor of love, the product of animation studio DreamWorks, a team pouring in enormous amounts of effort. It's a hurricane of slapstick, some of it in fact very funny, and age-appropriate energetic fight scenes, but lacks the sweetness and charm of the franchise at its best. It failed the wriggle test on my 7-year-old cinema date, who was squirming in her seat around the hour mark. The plot is a bit over-fussy for its target audience of small kids, though the script writers have been careful to make it work for newbies and no previous Kung Fu Panda experience necessary. It opens with Po being promoted from his role as Dragon Warrior to spiritual leader of the valley, taking over from his mentor Shifu. Dustin Hoffman at no expense has been spared on the vocal cast, but before he can appoint his successor, Po apprehends Zen, Awkwafina, a streetwise thieving fox. The two of them make a brilliant double act. Black is adorable, Awkwafina terrific as the cynical wisecracker. Zen warns Po about a dangerous new villain, the sorceress chameleon, Viola Davis, who turns out to be pretty unmemorable as far as the franchise's baddies go, not a patch on Ian McShane or Gary Oldman in the earlier movies. The two biggest giggles in the cinema came from the grown-ups, first, in a hilarious scene involving bulls in a china shop, then some right chuckling when Po tries to meditate as thoughts quickly straying to his tummy. Inner peace a broken bar, inner peace a broken bar, dinner please, a broken bar dinner with peace. But the 7-year-old shrugged and said, half-heartedly, the panda is a broken bar fun. Number 5. Jack Black's Kung Fu Panda 4 just got an unsurprising rating. DreamWorks' upcoming sequel will see Po become the spiritual leader of the Valley of Peace as he becomes a teacher. But things go sideways when a shape-shifting sorceress sets her sights on Jack Black's hero and his staff of wisdom. Some of the biggest additions to the film include the talented Viola Davis, who will be playing the villainous chameleon, and fan-favorite actress Awkwafina as Zen, an unexpected ally of Po's in his new struggle. Kung Fu Panda 4 gets official rating. The upcoming Universal Pictures animated feature film, Kung Fu Panda 4, just got its age rating confirmed. The official rating comes from the MPA, who gave the project a PG. According to the group, the film has martial arts action, mild violence, scary images and some mild rude humor. This designation shouldn't come as too much of a surprise, as it's exactly the same as the previous 3 installments in the franchise. Kung Fu Panda, rated PG for sequences of martial arts actions. Kung Fu Panda 2, rated PG for sequences of martial arts actions and mild violence. Kung Fu Panda 3, rated PG for sequences of martial arts actions and some mild rude humor. Will Kung Fu Panda 4 bring the scariest villain compared to previous films? The only difference when it comes to the MPA rating this time is the scary images featured in Kung Fu Panda 4, though, it's hard to imagine that the 4th entry is the only one with scary images after all. Ian McShane's Tai Lung was pretty intense in the original movie. Ironically, the trailer shows Viola Davis chameleon playing off of Poe's previous villains, including the terrifying Tai Lung, who makes a brief appearance before getting his kung fu stolen. Can this new threat be the scariest yet? Notably, another recent DreamWorks feature, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, was rated PG and indicated as having some scary moments by the MPA. The Puss in Boots sequel featured a few freaky visuals as well as the exploration of themes of anxiety and death. Could Kung Fu Panda delve into similar avenues? Hopefully, this next movie will be another hit. The odds are certainly in its favor, as the last 3 entries all were certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, each holding an 87%, 81%, and 87% critic approval rating in that order. Number 6 star cast: Jack Black, Awkwafina, Viola Davis, Dustin Hoffman, James Hong, Bryan Cranston. Director, Mike Mitchell. What's good? DreamWorks animation is still something to behold, and the different characters and settings are realized in beautiful detail. What's bad? The film lacks energy and propelling momentum, making it feel more like an afterthought than an actual movie for theatrical release. Lou break: the middle of the film feels completely inconsequential, so you can take a break right there, and you won't miss much. Watch or not? Watch only if you are a hardcore Kung Fu Panda. If not, this movie is more ideal for tiny kids than a general audience. Language: English. Available on theaters. Runtime: 94 minutes. User rating: Jack Black is still one of the hardest working people in the industry, and just after he broke box office records with his role as Bowser in the Super Mario Bros. Movie last year, he is now ready to go back to the character that has defined his voiceover work, Poe, the Dragon Warrior, now master of the Kung Fu secrets. However, has the character run out of his course? Or is there still something for the character to learn on his long quest? It might be that Poe is ready to go home once and for all. Kung Fu Panda 4 movie review. Script analysis: Kung Fu Panda might be one of the biggest success stories coming from DreamWorks Animation. Outside of their emblematic How to Train a Dragon series, the tale of the panda bear who decided to become a mighty kung fu warrior has captured the imagination of generations at this point. 3 movies and several TV series later, the Kung Fu Panda franchise is in a very comfortable place, one that delivers exactly what people expect from it and nothing more. Lately, the TV series has managed to become a perfect babysitting show for the younger generation. Babies who need some level of engagement to spend time in the afternoons but not too much so that they become entirely invested in, and that has been the fate of this series since the release of the 3rd film, 8 years ago. Kung Fu Panda 4 then feels like just an extension of the Kung Fu Panda TV series and doesn't justify its existence as a theatrical release. The film's plot sees our favorite master dragon facing a new villain and maybe starting a new phase for him as a character while also passing the baton to the new generation of Kung Fu warriors. That all sounds pretty good. But the film doesn't know how to make that premise compelling. Instead of creating a movie with a mighty arc, as they did with the second Puss in Boots film, Kung Fu Panda 4 is like a series of comedy sketches sewn together until they reach the expected 90-minute running time. Yes, some of the jokes are pretty funny, and the animation is gorgeous, but you can feel that everything in the movie, including the story and the characters, is done by the numbers. The film just feels too derivative, and this makes the film just predictable. There are no surprises throughout the journey, and the exciting action sequences from previous films just don't feel as crucial because no story or character development is robust enough to support them. Kung Fu Panda 4 movie review. Star performance. It feels strange to say that maybe Po's adventures are over, even when the film is telling us they are not, and that perhaps we should be following a new character as our protagonist. It feels weird and also wrong, and also a waste of Jack Black's talent as a performer. The actor does another great take on one of his most famous characters, and you can feel that for Black, this is not a paycheck. He truly loves the character and what it represents. Sadly, the quality of the story is just not up to par with his efforts as an artist, and in the end, the movie feels like a weekend of the line for Po. Meanwhile, Awkwafina does what she does best, and she plays once again another cute and funny sidekick with its own arc, but the writing fails her just like it fails Black, and her character, Zen, just ends up being entirely forgettable. Viola Davis fares better as the chameleon, the film's villain, and it is great to see Davis in a more relaxed comedic role. She deserves more chances to do comedy. The rest of the cast is just there. They don't do a lousy job, but their character feels very much like background characters, so there is not much to talk about them. Kung Fu Panda 4 movie review. Direction, music. Previous Kung Fu Panda films might have felt like amazing adventures aimed at kids, but they were still adventures that felt epic in scope and high in stakes. However, Kung Fu Panda 4 feels very small in comparison, which is another reason why it feels more in line with the animated series than with the previous films. Scenes often devolved into comedy sketches, and there needs to be apparent pathos or gravitas to anything happening on screen. This makes the movie feel like it is not deserving of our time. Some jokes are funny, and for the smaller family members, they might be enough to have a great time. Still, considering that the movie tries to deal with themes like getting older, it is weird that it needs to talk to the audience on several levels, which feels like a wasted opportunity. Hans Zimmer returns for the score, which is just fun. He is more focused on working on something like Dune than on a film like this one. Kung Fu Panda 4 movie review. The last word. Kung Fu Panda 4 feels like treading water, a movie that should have dealt with serious subjects, considering the context of its premise and the audience that loves these films but chooses to aim only at very young kids. The jokes are funny, but this one has no straightforward continuous story, making it feel more like a television season reworked into a movie than a proper story that was always meant to be seen on the big screen.